When Commander Elias Vale stepped onto the glass bridge of the Celestine Palace, every noble in the chamber saw the insult at once. He was not wearing the silver and violet of House Sarian, not the jeweled mantle laid out for honored guests, not the royal clasp waiting in the herald's hands. He wore only his own field blacks, faded at the seams, scarred at one shoulder, and marked at the collar with the red insignia of Earthfleet. In the Dominion, colors were not fashion. They were obedience made visible. To wear palace colors was to accept welcome hierarchy, and the claim that the throne sat above your name. To refuse them was to spit on custom in front of princes. The music died, whispers spread, and everyone waited for the human to realize he had walked into a trap dressed for war instead of ceremony then. The herald asked why the envoy of Earth had refused the colors of the royal house. Elias answered, "I was invited here as an ally, not dressed here as a possession." The chamber froze, because every conquered world in that hall understood exactly what he meant. Palace colors had been offered for centuries, with smiles and titles, and always, eventually, with chains, not iron ones, but political ones, cultural ones, the kind that wrapped around a people until they forgot where loyalty ended and ownership began. Elias stood as if the outrage around him weighed nothing, hands behind his back, chin lifted, calm in the way only dangerous men are. They expected a diplomat. Instead, they found a human, and those were never the same thing. Princess Lyra Sarian watched from the foot of the throne and felt the room shifting beneath her. They had told her the human commander was difficult, blunt, overly proud. They had not told her he would risk an alliance rather than trade his identity for silk. Lyra had worn royal colors her entire life. Silver for duty, violet for blood, white for chastity, gold for succession, every thread chosen before she could walk. Every robe telling the galaxy what she was supposed to be. And now a man from a brutal species stood in the center of her court, refusing magnificence because it asked too much from him. Not his body, not his service, but his self. That struck her harder than any speech ever had, because for the first time in years, someone in her palace looked free. Watch carefully, because this was the second the palace lost control. The High Chancellor rose with the confidence of a man who had ruined lives politely. He reminded the court that House Sorian had bestowed its colors upon kings, peace delegates, even former enemies. He asked whether Commander Vale considered the royal gesture beneath him. Elias answered, "No, Chancellor. I consider my own colors earned." And that made the silence worse, because the Chancellor had no reply strong enough to hide the truth in that word. Earned, humans were young by galactic standards, but they had a talent empires never understood. They attached honor to sacrifice, not inheritance. They trusted what had been bled for, not what had been handed down. The court saw disrespect. Lyra saw something rarer, a man who would not decorate surrender and call it peace. She rose before anyone could stop her, descending the steps in a line of silver light. The chamber parted as if instinct itself feared her. Elias did not bow, and somehow that made her smile inside. When she reached him, she held out her hand and said, "Commander Vale, if you will not wear my house colors, then show me yours." A murmur ran through the hall. Elias looked at her once, measuring whether this was mockery, then unclasped the red band tied around his wrist. It was faded, frayed, and old. Not a badge of status, but a survivor's relic. He placed it in her palm and said, "This came from the first ship we lost at Karin Gate. We wear red to remember that loyalty is paid for, not assigned." That was the line that split the galaxy in two. The Chancellor stepped forward, horrified, but Lyra moved first. She tied the red band over her own silver sash, covering the palace colors with the memory of a human ship. Gasps tore through the chamber. Ministers protested. Etiquette masters looked ready to faint, and a few war generals lowered their heads in respect. Lyra turned to face her court, scarlet bright against royal silver, and spoke with the full weight of succession in her voice. "If our colors truly mean honor, then they should not fear standing beside another. If our throne desires loyalty, then it must learn the difference between welcome and ownership." No one interrupted, because no one could. The princess had not defended the human, she had judged the court. And suddenly, the most powerful person in the room was the one wearing a ship's ribbon. The feeds exploded before the ceremony even ended. Border worlds replayed the moment. Allied systems debated it. Conquered systems understood it instantly. For them, this was not a fashion scandal. It was revelation. Someone born inside Empire had finally said the forbidden thing out loud. Respect that demands costume is only polished control. Elias could have pressed the advantage then. Could have turned the moment into a human victory speech. Instead, he did something smaller and more devastating. He bowed to Lyra, not to the throne. Not to the court, to her, equal to equal. And in that one gesture, he offered more respect than anyone wearing palace colors had shown all night. Lyra returned the bow, and every law in the room suddenly looked fragile. By dawn, the story had crossed 12 systems. Commentators called it reckless, romantic, revolutionary, but the truth was simpler. A human had walked into a palace wearing only what he had earned, and when the palace tried to dress him into obedience, the princess chose his colors instead, not because she loved him, not yet, but because she recognized something the empires had forgotten. Loyalty cannot be draped over a person like silk. It must be deserved, purchased in trust, sealed in sacrifice, carried in memory. That single red band changed treaty language, forced military reforms, and gave 100 worlds a new phrase to hold on to. Human colors, meaning the symbols no throne could assign. Only a life could earn, because some species inherit power. And humans make even princesses ask what power is worth.